Hey everyone, welcome to what is week 5 of our weekly tours of the different areas of the gardens, and apologies for the late start, we just had a few teething issues, but anyway, welcome to our wall kitchen garden. And this is an area that isn't generally open to the public, and so I'm excited to really give you a look around and a bit of a snapshot as to what goes on around the gardens in here. As with each week, just to give you our location in relation to the rest of the estate, here's the village square, here's our entrance, the approach to the castle, and we're over here today in what is the kitchen garden area, which is south facing across the lake, and is historically was the centre of production for fruit and vegetables for the estate, and it's still very much a working garden. And over the last few years we've restored and we've added new areas, and with a little bit of a lean towards not just fruit and veg, but also plant production, propagation of rare and unusual, and some of our wild collected specimens. So over the last few years we've really expanded this area, and now what I want to do is really just a rush through tour of each of the different sort of sections and talk to some of the guys that are here and introduce some other faces, because at this stage you've probably had enough of looking at me. So I'll let Paul pan around the gardens a little bit, and then we'll start kind of wandering through. So we'll walk through the heritage orchard later, and you might even get a snapshot of the ducks and the chickens across, looking at some of the new vegetable beds, the polytunnels in the background, and then around to the glass houses, and then back down into our herb bed over here. So as I walk through, you'll see everything kind of has its uses, and in some cases 2 or 3 uses. Certain spaces within the gardens, like the glass houses, will have one use one part of the year and another use another part of the year. And as we go through, I'll explain. We try to make the most of the space that we actually have. Down here to my left, we have a lot of standing out plants. So these are things that are ready to go out into the gardens and are stock plants in effect that have been either grown on or purchased. And this is the area where they're waiting to go out. We have a book for signing in and outs of plants so that we keep a record of what comes in and what goes out and where it goes in the gardens. So over the course of several years you build a picture of what's around the gardens and the grounds, which is very handy for reference purposes. I'm going to pop inside the glass houses now, and this atrium area we walk through is heated all year round, and we actually use it in the winter for overwintering a lot of the tropical and less hardy plants that we plant out then this time of year. Really, we're in the process of planting out at the moment. Some things have moved out from the atrium into the polytunnels and we're hardening them off, so just adjusting them to the cold, and other things are already out in the gardens. But there's still a few things in here as well. So the idea is that we push the mantle, we get away with things in the summer that they're just not quite hard enough to come through our winters. So this is the compromise. Up till last week, this was almost completely chock full of large ferns and banana species that made it look very much like a tropical rainforest. And when we go down in a couple of weeks' time and have a look around our tropical borders and jungle areas when they're fully planted out, you'll see the effect that we actually get from them and why it's worth doing. but I just want to show you the propagation area. Now in through here, we have our hotbed where we start off the seedlings, and then the gravel bed where we kind of grow things on. They then get moved out into the polytunnels and beyond into the gravel garden, etc. But it also is our grape house. So come this time of year, the grapes break and we get new growth. And over the summer then, this area becomes the grape house. Then in the winter, it almost reverts back into the more use for the propagation side of things. So we'll have a quick look. So you can see the grapes. This one is a seedless variety called Flame, and across further along we have a traditional black Hamburg grape as well. But you see underneath, in what becomes quite shaded in the summer, we can pick and choose what we put where, but we're growing quite a lot of rare and unusual. And some of you were probably watching when I went into the Vietnamese garden and I referenced Aesculus wangii, and there's some smaller ones here which are new seedlings growing away. And these will make their way out into the gardens as the summer progresses. And across in here, this is the seed growth. So if you look, these are the hotbeds where we start things off. So we can adjust the temperatures in here, and really it's a case of get things moving early on in the year, and it gives them a longer growing season. So they start off in here, and it's really exciting to pop down here. I regularly come down and just stick my nose in to see what's new. We've a lot of the Vietnamese collections here. And just to give you an example, it's things like this get sown as, I mean, rhododendrons like this one, microscopic seed, and even to get to this stage of growth can take a couple of months easily. But this is one we collected last year in Vietnam. So BCG stands for Blarney Castle Gardens. 107 is the collection number, and that number references against a database which shows location, possibly GPS, photographs, etc. And as these grow on, we'll be able to send them out to other gardens around Europe and swap plants and swap notes. But the important thing is that every plant that gets shared has this data on it, because this could very well be a completely new species of rhododendron for all we know. And it's good to compare and contrast with other gardens and learn as we go. And as they do grow on, things get moved out. So in here we have some of the other seedlings that have got going, being potted on in slightly larger pots, and in time they'll go out into the grounds and gardens as well. So there's some lovely rare different Japanese maple style acers, some different conifer species, and some other small tree species in this particular batch. But if you look across, there's all sorts dotted through. And I reference Vietnam, they're not all Vietnamese, but quite a lot in this particular area are at the moment. Now just behind me, you see Kieran's working away inside on some of our carnivorous plants. Now this section of the glass house we've been using to overwinter a lot of the carnivorous plant collection. We've developed the new Carnivorous Courtyard gardens over the last year, and we've now started planting out. Over the next couple of weeks I expect we'll be moving out quite a few more of these, but I'm going to let Paul wander in and show you, and if Kieran wants to reference a couple and introduce himself, I think he'd be quite happy just to say hello anyway. I don't want to put him under any pressure.
Hello. Hi Paul, how are you? Hi, welcome to the Carnivorous plants. I'm just reorganising these and getting them ready for hopefully to go out into by the June weekend and not before that. We already have a number of plants already in the Carnivorous Court, but the temperatures, nighttime temperatures, are a little bit low at the moment. So most of the ones I have here are already about a year old. We grew them from seeds last year. This particular one, I just repotted it there in February. It's the Drosera binata dichotoma giant. The good thing about it is it's coming back really nicely, and the roots that I cut, I replanted the roots just on the surface, and as you can see they're starting to shoot here. And if I show you that, you can see where there's one little plant coming on there. So hopefully we get about maybe half a dozen plants The rest of the sarracenias at the moment, I'm just watering them, and as I said, by June they should be all out. So come back in June or July and we'll take a visit over to the Carnivorous Court, and I'll see you then. All the best.
Thanks, Kieran.
All the best, Adam. See you later.
So Kieran's kind of taken on the Carnivorous Courtyard as a project, and he's going to be maintaining it with help from others, no doubt, but he's going to be the main man in there, and it's great that some of the staff that have particular interests we're able to foster that and use that to the advantage of the grounds and the gardens. So wherever possible, if somebody does have a passion or an interest, we do try to encourage it, and Kieran's doing a great job with that. So I want to move out now, and I'm going to introduce you to Olive, our deputy head gardener, so that she can show us around some of the other vegetable and fruit areas and talk a little bit about what we're doing.
How's it going?
So this is Olive, our deputy head, and she's particularly good with the fruit and veg side of things, and the last few years having her on board has really improved that side of the kitchen garden, and I think certainly it's going from strength to strength. So I'm going to let her take over from here a little and show us around some of the ongoing projects and talk about what we're up to, really.
Yeah. So we'll take a look in the cold frame first at some of the stuff that we've kind of ready to go out. Kieran was saying that the nighttime temperatures are still a bit cold, so we're just hardening stuff off in the cold frame. It's Mike and Kieran do a lot of the veg plots, and we'll walk up past those there in a minute. And we just dug those out last year, 7 of them. So that's going fairly well. We've converted some to fruit, and we might take a little look into the strawberry tunnel as well. I was surprised to see a few strawberries going red. I'd say we'll be having strawberries next week. So I want to look here in the cold frame first. So Steve and Milo baked these last week, and they're much lighter weight than what we had. We had very heavy aluminium windows and they were hard to slide. So these are ideal. It's recycled polytunnel plastic onto a timber frame and just a stick holding them up. So really simple idea, but it works really well. So Paul, if you take a look in there, you'll see dahlias up that direction, and then some of Mike and Kieran's veg are here. There's spinach, chard, rocket, lots of brassicas, different kinds of brassicas, and then some bedding plants up the top. So things are going very well. I suppose pests are the biggest thing this time of the year, and the slugs are kind of hard to manage. We use beer traps and the organic slug pellets, but we have to be vigilant as well. You know, you have to be watching for them all the time, checking under the pots. So maybe if we take a look at the strawberry tunnel all over here, the good event, we'll have to walk around the digger. So this is a new development this year, the strawberry tunnel. This was a propagation tunnel formerly, and we just decided to try with the strawberries because they're such a popular crop and a lovely summertime crop. So we have 3 varieties, Cambridge Favourite, and Santa and Simply, to try and extend the cropping season. So strawberry tunnel, and you can even see some going red. So next week, the week after. And it's on an irrigation system, which makes it very convenient as well for watering. You just have to put it on the timer and it comes on for 5 minutes every day. So very handy. So yeah, we've 2 varieties in there, so they'll be the earlier ones, and then we have another variety out here, Symphony. So when they're done, we'll probably swap them around and keep the heat. Is great to keep the crop coming earlier. So we might walk down past the vegetable beds here. You see inside the fence a beautiful state here, composting area. Mino and Steve that from some timber that we had, and we were recycling it as well from another part of the estate. So we try and reuse as much as we can as well, you know, in the kitchen garden. Great. So you can see going down, there isn't much to see now at the moment, so maybe, Paul, you can come back in a couple of weeks' time and we've some of the stuff from the cold frame planted out. We're rotating the beds, so we try like not to grow brassicas in the same patch where they were grown a previous year. Mike is getting this bed ready at the moment and he's growing root crops and brassicas on some of it. So we divide it in with, we use the bark chip pats, and that's our own bark from the forestry that we chip in-house as well, so it's very useful for, the beds are quite big. So we're using a lot of cardboard the last year or two, I suppose, really as a mulch. It's biodegradable, we're recycling, and it's just very useful in the garden for anyone who's thinking of starting a vegetable garden and cutting out an area in the lawn. Like, we just have cardboard under this bark chip, and like it's rotting already. This is down a couple of months, I suppose now. That's what we did when we took the crop out of there. We just put the cardboard down. The cardboard eliminates the weeds, you know, because it's dark, and it makes the bark mulch then much more effective. The bark mulch lasts a lot longer. So, and I much prefer it to the weed mat. I think it's a lot more kind of breathable or something, and you see a lot of worms under it and stuff as well. So cardboard is a good one for mulching. On the right hand side here, Paul, you see there's a strip of wildflowers. We had it last year. We tried it for the first time last year, and it was really effective, very good for attracting pollinators and bees and butterflies and everything into the garden, and looked really nice as well as part of the vegetable garden. So it was a good success last year, and we had to rotivate the ground again this year and just sow the seed now today. So I'm hoping for a shower to wash them in. So there's something in this bed, so we can have a look at this. This last year was potatoes, and we've converted it to a perennial vegetable bed this year. And so we transplanted a lot of rhubarb, perennial kale, there's asparagus down the back there. But you can see there's loads of volunteer potatoes coming through. So we'll have to dig those out as they come in. I did them on the asparagus now last week, but I'll have to get to this patch next week because they do just take over. And this is a lovely companion plant, Limnanthes, poached egg plant, and it's really good for attracting hoverflies and bees. It's brilliant. It just would be alive with them in the summer, and like it'll be a good ground cover here while the rhubarb is getting established. Speaking of volunteers, just want to say we really miss you guys. I can't wait to see you back. The volunteers were very involved in these beds over the last couple of months. They harvested the potato crop that was here a couple of months ago, so looking forward to seeing you back in the gardens. Right. This is some garlic and onions, and then some potato and greens there as well. Some first earlies and second earlies planted, so same idea, just going to do a rotation there, and plenty of bark mulch. And then these last two beds, we've converted them to fruit, soft fruit. So there's raspberries, tayberries, loganberries in this one here in front of us. And Steve and Milo did a great job with the supports. It's important to get the supports in as early as you can, and we did them into raised beds. So we're not going to cover them with netting this year and see how it goes with the birds. We'll play that one by ear. then the last one is gooseberries and currants, black currants and white currants and that. And we just, like I said, now see how we go. If there's enough for the birds and for us, we may have to nick them. Yeah, and you can see out beyond the beds then is the orchard extension. So those apple trees were just planted this year. So we're going to have quite a big orchard. And they're doing good. Now it's starting to grow. So we might take a stroll up through the orchard and see if Shawnee is up at the bees. And he might tell us a little bit about the bees at the estate. Yeah. Adam, did you want to talk a little bit about the
Yeah,
cider and
sure.
the apple juice?
There's a reason we actually planted the trees. So in our cafes, normally when we're open, we sell our own organic apple juice, which is produced from the apple trees in this orchard. And we use all the ones that have been planted are old heritage varieties, so they're all Irish apple varieties. And it creates an interesting mix, but a very, very nice juice. But then last year we said, well, maybe we could take this a little bit further. So we started by planting a few mixed cider apples, and we started off experimenting with our own cider. So this is year one, and it's not for sale at the moment. It's quite an exclusive drink as things stand, but it's our own organic cider mix, and it's been very successful. It's been very well received, and we hope to have this in the shops in the long run, if there's ever enough left after the staff have bought their share, because this year's batch has been very popular with the staff themselves. So, you know, it's great though, because it shows that the process is working for us, and we've got a nice product. So if our own staff like it, and they'd be pretty tough customers, I think that then we can deem it a success. But one of the reasons we decided to expand the orchard is because there is a demand for the apple juice. It's a great product, and the more we can grow in-house and produce in-house, the better. I certainly think with a nod towards the future and organic farming and gardening in general, there's going to be a demand for more fruit and veg. All of the berries go into ice cream, which is again hugely popular in the cafe and is a great summer seller for us. But the next thing we've gone into really is honey production as well. And as Olive mentioned, we're going to go up and see if Sean's about, and he can tell us a little bit about what we're up to with the bees and the bee observation house. So I'll let you lead up, Olive.
Yep. This is a more established part of the orchard, and there's a lot of heritage apples planted here. How long ago, Adam? 10, 15 years?
We started really renovating and planting around 10 years ago,
Yeah.
most of the older ones.
Yeah, so they're doing pretty good and providing a good crop. You can see straight up ahead is the Bee Observatory that's normally open for the public at the side of the wall garden. So there's a mesh on it, so you can look in when Shawnee is tending to the bees and see him like taking the frames off, and if there's a queen on show, he'll bring it over to whoever's interested, and people are very interested. It's been a really popular stop along the walk around the lake. So we'll go up and see if he's there. He'll tell you more. Hi, Sean. Good time, bad time? They cross, they quiet?
They're really quiet. Right? And healthy.
Yeah.
Um,
You find the queen?
just looking for her here now. Not here, but she is laying, as you can see from all the eggs.
Right.
All the larvae, cap larvae.
Good sign.
And they're fairly strong. They're bringing in a lot of nectar at the minute. They
Right.
were bringing a lot of pollen last week. So just shifted to the nectar.
Right.
We have 10 hives here in Blarney. We have 6 here in the orchard, and we have 4 in a wooded area in another part of the estate. They're all Apis mellifera, the Irish black bee. The reason we keep them is because they are more used to our climate, so they have a better chance of surviving. And they're very frugal with their stores for the winter, so they don't use up all their stores. They only use them very sparsely. Last year we put in a honey extraction house above there. We converted the old apple store, a section of the old apple store to food standard, so that we could extract in there. This is our bee observation house. We come out from the other side, obviously. It means that the public are protected at all times while you're still able to view the bees from within the enclosure here. It's made of oak, mostly, and all that oak came from the estate. So just trying to find the queen here. She's had to run around now.
Have they enough space, Sean?
Looking good.
Yeah.
Looking good. I added another super last week. We try to monitor them every 7 to 10 days so that they don't build new queen cells. Because if they build a new queen cell and they hatch another queen, they'll swarm, and we have a big chance of losing the hive in them. And she'll hatch within 16 days. So if you monitor them up to 10 days, you can spot the new queen and either take her out or hatch her up to yourself. We take her out to stop her from swarming mostly. So I don't see her now. She's probably camera shy.
Is she marked?
She's marked and clipped, and the reason we mark them is they're marked with a different colour each year, so that we know the age of the queen. But we keep records as well. And the reason that she's clipped is so that she don't abscond, so we have a better chance of them not swarming while she's clipped. But she's really good at hiding. And they're a real quiet bee, as you can see.
There, yeah.
We bought 2 queens from Galtee honeybees in Tipperary, and they breed their queens specifically to be quiet, because like there's no fun in getting stung every 5 minutes. You know, there's no joy in that. There's no one want to do that. Unless you're a masochist.
see there is a frame of capped larvae, and the high bumps are drones, which are the male bees. They are bigger than the normal bee, so they have to have a bigger cell. And they'll make X amount of drones, which is really good because it takes two to tango, and without the drones, the queens are useless.
Great birds and the bees talk.
Thanks very much for that, Sean. I'll leave you to it. So it's kind of giving you a little snapshot of the whole wall garden and some of the things that go on in here. And there's obviously a lot more detail we can show you, and that would take us probably hours, but I just hope we kind of gave you a little taster of some of what goes on behind the walls, because so many people have been asking what's in there. And we'll see you next week again for another installment. In the meantime, if anyone has any particular requests of areas they'd like us to cover or questions they have about this week, please feel free just to drop them in and we'll do our best to answer them. So thanks very much, and enjoy your weekend.